this is frog number 1, the frog that tells you about all of his problems. Frogs are in dire straits in the world and have been for quite a while, although I am happy to report Wisconsin was on the leading edge in the United States of forming a frog survey and yearly count from the 1980s, where they're monitoring every frog species and dealing with problems that they have. So our frog species, for the most part, since the time they started counting, have become stable. So we really aren't losing frogs dramatically, but they're on the edge. There's not a population of frogs like there was in the 1960s and 70s. So here is our frog. It tells us that they're suffering from habitat destruction, invasive species, pollution, climate change, and pesticides. And pretty much every one of those things has been related to our species. So this is the way we're telling children that perhaps we need to change our ways. This is the first page of the book. It tells about the frightened frog and what he's afraid of. I also displayed here the page of Wisconsin's most frightened frog. We do have one frog that's on the endangered species list. 40 years ago, this particular frog was one of the most common frogs in southern Wisconsin. Literally, you could hear it all the time. Now, if you want to hear it, you have to go to southwestern Wisconsin, where it's only in certain small pockets. Dinosaurs and frogs coexisted on the face of this earth long before people were here. So the frog already has outlived us simply because it's been here longer. Now it's dropping significantly, and if we want to keep it around, it's going to have to be up to us. So in the storybook, they say that the only thing frogs had to worry about back when there was dinosaurs was getting stepped on. So we replicated that, but here we have a dinosaur who's going, uh-oh, I don't want to step on that frog. The little frog with the earphones is getting sick of listening to the roaring of dinosaurs, and so he's bought himself a set of earphones to plug it up. The other one is hiding behind a rock. Hopefully he won't get stepped on if he's behind a rock. This page talks about the statistics of how frogs, over the course of time, have dropped their population significantly. And this refers to worldwide frogs. They are disappearing, species are disappearing at, 3 species every 20 years now, and has been repetitive for a while. So this page tells us that he's facing his biggest trial, and he's just hoping he can exist for a while, for our numbers are reaching all-time lows, and soon we'll be extinct if it's up to our foes. Speaking of foes, we have an aquarium here where we have got frogs on display from the date of their birth to their old age. And we have separated the two. These are the predators of frogs, the natural predators, and this is a nice, safe frog habitat except for one fish. This is a rainbow trout. It was introduced in Colorado to some mountain lakes that were on the east side of the Continental Divide, where there was no such thing as rainbow trout. And this frog, called the Rocky Mountain yellow-legged frog, didn't know what a trout was, and literally would swim up to the trout when they were in the water and would become instant dinner. This rainbow trout will eat frogs at any stage of their development. They'll eat the eggs, they'll eat the tadpoles, and they're voracious feeders. So they wiped out 90% of the frogs in those lakes in record time. And then the DNR in that area recognized the problems, actually removed the fish from the lakes and reintroduced the frogs. So frogs are food for people too. They are all over the world, but especially in the southern part of the United States, where there's so many frogs and they have an extended breeding season and there's a lot of water and ponds. People will go out with an instrument just like that. It's called a gigging tool, and just stand on the side of ponds and puncture a frog and then cut the legs off and eat frog legs. Frog legs are a delicacy in some restaurants, and you can order them in the north too. But the frogs are telling us, why don't we just eat chicken and just forget the frog legs? Because, you know, if frogs are in this much of a challenge to stay alive, why should we eat them too? Here we have frogs need water. They need moist skin all the time. This climate change of increasingly warm days, ponds that are drying up, is pretty much a fatal thing for frogs. They cannot live without water. They have to have wet skin in order to process. They actually can drink water through their skin. They also process chemicals through their skin, their own personal chemicals. They will absorb pesticides and many other evil things out of our water that we accidentally put there. So here we have a display of somebody not so accidentally filling in a wetland. And the frogs are going, what's going to happen next? This is a demonstration of frogs losing their wetland to habitat destruction. We have a little monitoring agent that is in our displays here and there, and it's a little grasshopper. I mentioned that frog skin is very permeable so that they can absorb water through their skin. So we're inviting the kids to enjoy looking at this art frog, which also has very interesting skin, almost like what you might look at under a microscope. So we have little magnifying glasses for them to go up to the frog and look at what the skin looks like. They're an indicator species that show if a habitat is starting to have an effect, a negative effect on wildlife. They are one of the first things that get sick, one of the first things that exhibits changes in their body structure related to substances that they have absorbed. So the scientists know this, so they keep an eye on frogs pretty regularly. And they will agree that we're in trouble. Why we're in trouble? Well, because we got to learn to control ourselves. And here's one aspect of human behavior that is easy to control. This is depicting what pesticides, herbicides, all the sides that we use to kill things so that we can grow what we want, or we can go outside when the bugs are out. Now you have to realize that frogs eat bugs. That's what they eat. So if we went and poisoned all the bugs, we might be poisoning frogs that gulp down the bug right after we poisoned them. We're smart enough to figure out other ways to do the things we're doing. This was an easy way, and the time has come to think of maybe a little more difficult ways, but we can do it. So this visually shows the stream of the different chemicals going down to a frog pond, and that's our oversized, magnified frog that has decided he's buying himself a gas mask and sees if that will work. And this is a poor little frog that went and got a bad drink, and now she's suffering. She's got ice pack on her head and a thermometer in her mouth that's about to blow the top off. And this is saying, try not to touch us and move us around. It can kill us with diseases that quickly abound. Many of us are endangered species, that's for sure. Something must be done to help us endure. Well, it is true that if you handle a frog, you can hurt it. The more likely way you're going to hurt that frog is to have insect repellent on your hands, or have been playing in something that it would hurt the frog. If you are going to pick up a frog, make sure you got nice clean hands before you do that. Here we have a page that's all about how frogs help us out by eating bugs. We eat bugs and mosquitoes that make humans ill. Now, don't you think that's an important skill? And it is a skill. So we elaborated on that skill by building ourselves a little frog mobile. So we encourage kids to come and see if they can get their frog and their tongues to get the mosquitoes. And our last display on the walk is the frogs asking us to help them stay alive for 2 million more years. Since they've been here 2 million years, they now want to celebrate another 2 million years. We have our little grasshopper fella watching out, thinking that perhaps they might set the garden on fire. So he's got a little fire extinguisher over there, and he'll blow out those candles if they start looking like they're going to spread the fire. Yeah, right. We hope you'll come and visit Rotary Gardens, and we have something for your kids as well as for yourself. And Rotary Gardens actually has a real bullfrog tadpole population down in the small ponds in our Japanese garden. But I'm not going to show you. You're going to have to come and try to find them for yourself. Thank you for joining us on the walk.